Okay, our recording has started. So thank you everyone for joining us tonight for our Navionics training. I just wanted to go over a few things before Karyn starts presenting. The first thing is I just wanted to introduce myself. I'm sure many of you have met me, but if I haven't, my name is Taylor, and I have the honor of working with all of my great team. I have Joe, he is our new salesman. I have Adam on here, who's our operations manager and head technician. And then I also wanted to introduce Lane. She is our new membership executive, membership experience person. So she is going to drop her email and phone number in the chat. So any questions that you guys have in regards to like reciprocal trainings and just pretty much any questions in general, she'll be able to transfer you to the right person. So I know I was kind of doing that before, and now Lane is helping me take over that. So I really appreciate that. Again, her information is in the chat, so make sure you drop by in there and grab all of that. And then lastly, I would like to introduce the one and the only Captain Karyn. For those who don't know her, she has been with the club for quite a while. She has been head of our trainings. She also ran quite a few of these classes for us. So we always appreciate her help and her knowledge that she's able to share with everyone. So how we are going to be taking questions tonight, because it's likely that questions will pop up during her training. If you could just place them in the chat, I will be monitoring the chat, and I will then stop Karyn, and hopefully she can just answer that question right then and there, because a lot of times that way she's not having to go back to where she was. So again, if you have any questions in the middle of this training, just put them in your chat, and I will then get Karyn's attention, and we will get that answered for you. And then at the end, Joe's going to talk a little bit. He has a special offer for all of our current members, so you'll definitely want to stay on for that. If everyone could just make sure that they keep themselves muted, that way we can hear Karyn the best, and we'll get started.
All right, awesome, thank you. So welcome everybody. And, you know, as Taylor said, please ask questions in the chat as we go along, because your question might be relative to exactly like what we're talking about as we're talking about it. And I want to answer the question as we're going so that it's not out of context, right? So ask any questions that you want as we go. I want to make sure everybody can see the Navionics screen. So I have an app that allows me to use the actual app on my phone. So you'll see how it looks exactly as we're going through it, as if it was on your phone, even though it's on the computer. You can use Navionics on your computer as well, but it looks different and it has some different features. So I wanted to make sure that I have it on my phone, and that as I'm going through it, you're seeing how to use it from a phone perspective, because that's how most of you will use it, right? You'll use it on your phone. Now, why use something like this rather than a GPS that's on the boat, or you know, some other GPS? If you're comfortable with some other GPS, that's fine, use that. A lot of the boats have GPS on them. Some of them don't, like some of the, I know some of the tri-tunes may not. I think most of them do now. But I like to have my own, GPS, because I can set it up for my boat or for a generic boat, right? And I know exactly how to use this. It keeps my routes. It keeps my places that I've gone, places where I want to go. And it's GPS traveling around in my pocket. A lot of times when I'm out on my own personal boat, I use both. So I use my GPS on the boat, and I also use my GPS. I use the Navionics because the Navionics is really easy to zoom in and out with just using my fingers like you do on your phone, where sometimes with the buttons you gotta push plus 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 to make it bigger, or minus 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 to make it smaller when you're using the GPS on the boat. So I'm gonna back out of this for a second, and I want to show you all that the Garmin icon has changed. So for the Navionics icon, it's changed. It's this Garmin one right here. It used to be like a circle with an N. It is now, it says Garmin, and it says boating, and it's the one that has like the triangle shape with the waves up in my top right corner. So I'm going to click on that, and then that opens it up to Navionics. I just renewed my Navionics, and it is $50, but it covers the entire US, right? So we get the US, we need US and Canada where we live. And then the package that you buy for $50 is US, Canada, and the whole United States. So if you're traveling around to our different locations, you're covered. So here's what it looked like. Now let's talk a little bit about charts, right? So the difference between a chart and a map is that a chart, when I zoom in here, you'll see these numbers start to pop up, right? So the chart shows you the depths of the water. See all these numbers? These numbers represent how deep the water is in these particular spots. Now, it isn't exact. This is what we call chart datum. Chart datum is the average depth over 30 years. So if they had to, if it needed to be exact, they would be reprinting charts like every other day. So even though this is digital and it's a digital chart, it's still chart datum. So you got to keep that in mind. For the last couple of years, we've been kind of hovering right around chart datum. So if it said it was 7 feet or 8 feet in a particular spot, it was probably maybe 9 feet in that exact spot, or 8 feet. Now this year, we're anticipating the water being much lower. Part of that is because we're behind in rain and snowfall. If we have a lot of rain this spring, it'll catch up. But I know I live on a canal out here on the lake in St. Clair Shores, and we're down about 2 feet right now. And last year, toward the end of the year, we were down about that much, and I was having a hard time getting my boat off the hoist. So if we don't get a lot of rain, it's going to be low. And depending on how much rain we get, how much snowfall, how much ice we have, a lot of factors go into whether the water will be high or low. It's very important to be able to know how to read a chart and to understand what these numbers mean. So if we're looking at this chart right here, you can see that it's the numbers here, and this is right outside of St. Clair Shores, right? This area here is the nautical mile. And you can see out in front of the nautical mile is 7, 8 feet. Charts are not only have numbers to tell you what the depth is, they also are color coded. So you can see as we scroll down toward Ford Cove, you can see that there's some colors coming in on the water. So the yellow represents land. The blue, right, white is the deepest part of the lake. Light blue is the next shallower part of the lake, and dark blue is the shallowest part of the lake. Seems to be counterintuitive, right? You would think that the darker blue would be the deepest part of the lake, but it's not. It's the opposite. Yes, the Navionics app is 25, or I'm sorry, $50. It's just shy. It's like 49.90 something for the year. So, anyway, so it's the opposite of what you would think. So it's white is the deepest part, light blue is the next deepest part, dark blue is the shallowest. So you want to be careful of the shallow areas. If I zoom in here, you can see these shallow areas here are 1 foot, 3 foot, 2 foot, right? Some of these areas are 1 foot. There's rocks in these areas over here by Ford Cove. So you want to be real careful going into Ford Cove this year. If you zoom in, you can see that you have to go straight into Ford Cove or you're going to end up probably hitting something. So be very careful. Every time you hit a prop, it can be very expensive. Bend a prop, crack a prop, hit a rock. You can do lower end unit damage to that boat. If you hit something, you can't even put it in neutral fast enough to like avoid doing some damage to the lower end unit. So be careful, read the charts, right? And Joe's going to talk to you at the very end here about our peace of mind plan for those of you who are newer to boating. That might be something that you want to think about. I hate to even say it, but chances are you're probably going to hit something. Even somebody who's as experienced as me, you can, I can find a log, I can find a stump that wasn't there. I have found rocks out there with some props. So even if you have experience, things move around with the ice. And in the spring, there's lots of debris in the water from the rains, lots of tree stumps, as you see our hazard mitigation team pulling them out all the time, that things can happen. So even if you're experienced, it's probably a good idea to look into the peace of mind plan, which Joe's going to talk about. So let's talk about in the Navionics. In the Navionics, so you have all the chartology that you would have in any kind of chart, plus some more. So you can see that there's these little sailboat markings. These little sailboat markings, if I take my crosshairs and I go over those spots, what happens is what that is marking pops up. So when I take my crosshairs and I scroll over, I see Jefferson Safe Harbor. So it tells me the GPS coordinates. It tells me how far it is from me. I can hit that boat to button and it'll do a route to that location. I can put a marker on there. I can see the weather of what that is. I can also select Jefferson Safe Harbor, and it shows me a picture of it. It gives me some information about the marina, gives me the address, gives me some contact information, gives me their email, gives me after hours security numbers. And it also gives me some navigation information. Tells me different amenities and different services that they offer. So this is a great little tool. It shows that they've got a gas dock there, shows that they have dockage, shows you their maximum length overall that they can accommodate. And then also some reviews from some people who have stayed there. So you can do that with any of the crosshairs here. Some of them might just be a buoy, right? So here, this is the United States Coast Guard station. So if I look at the United States Coast Guard station, it's going to give me a phone number and it's going to give me very little information, right? Unlike the marina, it doesn't give me a lot. If I go over here, this is marking a wreck. So if I show this, it shows me the coordinates again, right? If I select that this is this wreck here, it doesn't really give me a lot of information about it. It just shows me that it's there. All of these little circles with the dots around them, they are all obstructions. You want to stay away from those, right? If you're heading toward an obstruction like that, you're going to want to go around it. Okay, there's a couple different views that you can do with your cursor. And my cursor is right here. So this is my house, basically, this one with the pin right there. And then the red triangle, that's me in my house, basically. And when I start moving on the boat, on the water, it will move along with, right? So it'll show, I like to have the triangle, the red triangle, to have a line off the bow, which you can have a line off the bow, or you can not have a line off the bow. It's just a personal preference. I like to have a line off the bow because basically that line off the bow is telling me if I continue in this direction, this is where I'm going to end up, right? So it also helps me to figure out where I'm going, where I'm heading. Am I heading toward shallow water or am I heading toward deeper water? You
Can
can
I pause?
change.
Can
Yep,
I pause you? I had a
sure.
question. It said, will obstructions be avoided when you plot a route?
Yes, obstructions will be avoided when you plot a route, and I'm going to do a plotted route here in a little bit. So hold on,
Okay,
I'm going to show you.
thank
I'll
you.
show you the obstructions being avoided. So with the on the lower left corner, when you have the GPS, you guys don't see it here on this demo, but there's an arrow on the lower left, and if I touch it, it changes my perspective. So now this is, it's set at, it's going to always have north, no, yeah, north facing up, right? Then I go back to see the line off the bow. That's what I like. That's what I prefer. And then you can have it without one. So without the line off the bow, you can have it that your GPS is always north is always up, or you can have it with the line off the bow. You can also pick different overlays. I like to just have the nautical chart, but you can have different charts. You can also pick satellite imagery. For me, it's a little bit too much noise, and I just like, because I've learned on the regular chart, I just like to see the regular chart. But you can go in and kind of play around with some of these things. Right? Let's go into menu because you've got to set up your GPS. Okay. Oh, sorry about the dogs. I got a bunch of dogs. Okay. So let's set up let's set up your boat in the menu. So down on the bottom again, let me see if I can make this smaller and you guys can see this. Nope, not that. Here we go. Okay, so see down at the bottom now, you can see where there's route, start, menu. So if I go to menu, right, you'll see my name there. If I see how there's like a little faint gray arrow to the right of my name. If I touch on that, then it shows you can put pictures in here. You can put a picture of a boat. You can put yourself in here. It shows that I have a power boat, right? What do I use it for? Power boating, fishing. This is my account, right? If I go to my boat, when I go to my boat, what type of boat is it? It's a power boat. What length is it? It's 32. What's the beam? It's 10 feet, right? What's the draft? 3.2, right? It's probably like a little bit less than 3, but I put it at 3 for safety. right? It wasn't working last year at 3, but when I was playing around with it, it worked at 3.2. So sometimes you just got to kind of play around with it a little bit. If it's not working, doing a correct automatic route, just play around with it a little bit. When I put it at 3.2, it worked fine, right? So it's got a maximum height. That's for like, it's not going to route you underneath bridges that you can't go under. Shoreline distance, I just put normal, fuel consumption, cruising speed, depth. So if you don't know what any of these things are, let's say, for example, I don't know what the draft is. If I touch on it, it'll show me what the draft is. So the draft is from the bottom of the boat to the water line. How much space do you need? So I need 3 feet. Now, I set this up for my boat, but you could set it up for just any generic Freedom Boat Club boat, right? So you could say it's a 22-foot boat and I need 3 feet, right? I need 3 feet for as my draft, and you could put the beam at like 8 or 9 feet. And that would just be like any generic Freedom Boat Club boat. Okay. So you got to set up your profile first before you can do the automated routing. It will not do the automated routing if you do not set up your boat, because it needs to know what your boat's what your beam or what your draft is. Okay, it can't route you around if it doesn't know what your draft is. So
Karyn,
once you have that
asking,
set up,
oh, they're asking, how can we accurately estimate, and then they put G over H.
I believe they're
gallons
asking
per hour. It's gallons per hour.
Gallons per hour, yeah.
Yeah, gallons per hour. So I could probably show you that. There's in the menu here, when you look at I think it's tracks, right? So you got to kind of, it's not going to do it for you, right? You have to kind of figure it out yourself. But let's just take, for example, so here's a trip that I went on. This was back in July of 2023. I went to Lexington from St. Clair Shores, and it was 70 miles basically. And my time was 2.5 hours, and my average speed was 28.6 miles per hour. So I know that I use about a half tank of gas. Half a tank of gas for me is 50 gallons. So I can divide 50 gallons, or my speed and my gallons, and that'll tell me how many gallons I'm using per hour. A lot of these newer boats, our boats all will tell you. There's some smart gauges in it, and it'll tell you. And I can guarantee you that with these outboard motors, because they just sip the gas, that they're probably getting, I would say, 2 to 3 miles to the gallon, because my boat has two 350s in it, and I'm getting about 1.7, 1.8 when I'm running most efficiently. So, but a lot of these boats will have gauges in them that will tell you. Okay. I don't know if I hope I answered the question. Okay. Now let's do an automatic route. Okay. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go down here to route, and I'm going to do automatic. This is one of the best features of this, this particular app, because it's so easy to use. They made it so easy. So if I go out here right in front of, let's say, right in front of my canal here, and I'm going to touch down, all I have to do is touch my finger. It's going to create a pink dot. Okay. So I want to go from my house to Blue Lagoon, right? I want to go to the Blue Lagoon restaurant, which is all the way over here in Bouvier Bay. And I happen to have a marker there marking it. And I'm just going to touch out right in front of the restaurant. So I'm going to touch right here. Now give it a minute, right? And if it says, you can see down here, it tells you the length, that's 20 miles. It's going to take me about 43 minutes to get there based on what I told them, like my cruising speed is. And my fuel consumption, I'm going to use about 13 gallons. Right? So I say go, and it routes the whole thing. Now, what's interesting is it also tells you some areas to be careful of. So remember we were talking about, does it route you around obstructions? Right? It routes you around obstructions, but it also, more importantly, routes you around the shallow waters. So this is the tip out in front of Metro Beach. Most people don't realize how big this tip is. It's very shallow and it's very rocky. Okay. People run over this all the time. And I always say, you learn who knows how to read a chart and who doesn't when the water's shallow, right? Because anybody can run a boat around when the water's deep and not get in trouble. But the minute the water gets down by chart datum, you start seeing boats getting towed in because people don't know how to read chart, or a GPS for that matter. You have to have that basic skill of being able to read a chart and understand what these numbers and these colors are telling you. So you can see right here, it's routing us around Metro Beach. Never, never, never go right at Metro Beach, right? Never go right at the land. You always have to go, you have to understand that there's a shallow point out there. So you always have to go around. Now it's routing us in this area too, which is also, it's telling us it can be hazardous, right? So it's because it gets real shallow in here, right? So it's 5 feet. As we come up on the Clinton River, that's the Clinton River right there. And then it's going to send us over close to the North Channel, but we don't want to go into the North Channel. See where that splits right there? Where it's deep and then it's shallow in the middle? That is where North Channel and Anchor Bay split. Okay, so you want to stay to the left side of that, follow your GPS, it'll route you right along, just like it does with your car. And then again, it's warning you that, look, it's very hazardous right here because you're close to that 2 foot of water, right? But you can see over on the other side, it's 8 feet. But then be careful of this other little 3 foot here, right? So it's going to route you right around and it's going to take you right in front of Blue Lagoon.
Karyn, we had a question. Are you able to zoom out so we can see a larger pic of the lake and the channel?
Yeah, so I zoomed in so that you guys could see the stuff down at the bottom. But here, if I zoom out, make it a little bit bigger, it just makes the picture a little bit smaller. Okay. And you lose the stuff down at the bottom. But what I'm showing you right now, the reason why it's like that is because it's on my phone.
Also,
I could turn my phone. Right, so then you can see it a little bit better. Is that better? That's probably better for everybody.
I had another question. They asked in the 3 feet spot, why is it white and not blue?
Okay, so white is the deepest part of the lake. Light blue is the next shallower part of the lake, and dark blue is the shallowest part of the lake. I know it seems counterintuitive because you would think, right, that the dark blue should be the deepest part of the lake. It's the opposite. So when you can see here, what I'm showing you here on the screen, this shows basically what you're looking at is Metro Beach on the lower left, right? And you can see that the point that I was talking about, that's dark blue, that's real shallow there. Then you can see just above it is the Clinton River. And you can see the dark blue around the Clinton River, right? Because all around the Clinton River, the mouth of the Clinton River is dark blue. Then when you look over at Goose Bay or Muscatmoot Bay, which is just below it, it's almost all dark blue. It's very shallow. For those of you who've gone into Muscatmoot, you know, and especially Little Muscatmoot, last year, the beginning of the year was super questionable whether you could even get into Little Muscatmoot. Now, I think they'll probably be back there again because they tend to kind of create they've created a channel going in there from all the boats going in and out. But we did have quite a few big boats that were hitting bottom early in the spring and had to be towed out. So be careful. The nice thing about our boats is that you can trim up the motors a little bit. Don't trim them up too much because you need them to be able to suck up the water because that's how they don't overheat. But you can trim them up a little bit and keep them from getting hit. Okay. Yeah, I think this is a little better view for everybody. All right. So does anybody have any questions on the auto route? Someone I want to like ask them now before we move, because once you do the route, when you're going back, you can just hit reverse, right? You can ask it what the details of the route. You can save this route. So you can say, okay, this is, Blue Lagoon route. You can reverse it, or I'm just going to stop it. If I wanted to go from my house, let's say, to something a little bit more difficult, let's say to Algonac Harbor Club, right? So if I'm going to go from my house to Algonac Harbor Club, which is way up the channel, right? It's right about here. Where is it? I think it's right about here, right here. So I'm going to touch right here. Again, give it a minute. I'm going to say go. And sorry, don't mean to make you guys seasick here. Okay. So I don't know why it's upside down here. Let's try. So you can see it's going to run me right up the middle channel. That's the way it's got me going, is right up the middle channel. So but the nice thing is it'll take me right into the middle channel. So it's the same way you would go to Browns. See how shallow it is on each side of the middle channel? Like, if you don't stay in that channel, you're going to be in 1 foot of water before you know it. You're going to be beached, right? So you want to stay in that channel. It's going to run me right up the middle channel. And then the middle channel and the north channel meet at the tip of Dickerson Island, which is right there. And then it's going to run me right up to Algonac Harbor Club, which is right there. So it's pretty neat. It's pretty fancy. Okay. So again, let's go back to.
I have a question. It says, can you drag or change to the main channel instead of the middle channel?
No, I think it picks the route for you. I don't think that you can edit that. You can do a manual route. So you can do it yourself by creating waypoints, but you can't, I don't think you can do it automatic for yourself to reroute it. Let me see. I'm not sure why it's got my map upside down. Here we go. There's normal. Okay. So let's go back to menu. All right. So there's a lot of other things that you could do with this, and that is so we talked about tracks. So it shows all of the different routes that you've been on and all the different things, all the different places that you've gone and different tracks that you made and how fast you've gone and how far, right? And you can look at those by length, the length of the route, how fast you went, and by the time of the route. So it just archives those automatically. These are routes that you have saved. I don't really use these features. What I do use are the markers. So a lot of times I'll just want to put a marker somewhere, and you can see I have markers all over my Navionics. But I use it because, for example, here, this is my favorite little anchoring spot out in front of um, our van. It's not really in front of our van. Actually, you don't want to go out in front of the art van house. What you don't want to do is go close to shore between the art van house and Ford Cove. It's not only is it shallow there, but it's rocky. There are big rocks, right? When I see boats in there, people always ask me, they're like, Karyn, why don't you go in there? And I'm like, and they're like, there's other boats in there. And I'm like, I know there's other boats in there. They're just lucky they haven't hit anything, right? There's rocks in there. Where it's safe is to go in between the Grosse Pointe Yacht Club and our van's house, right? So there's this big white colonial with a red terracotta roof that's kind of in the middle. If you're going to go over there, go aim toward that house, and you could go on any side of that house, and you're not going to find really any rocks. It's all nice, hard packed sand. You can put a marker in on that spot. So if you wanted to do a marker, you just again get the crosshairs, you hit the question mark, you can add a marker, right? You can pick different markers that you want. You know, it's your home, it's a diving area, there's rocks there, man over, you know, if you have a situation with a man overboard, fish, hazard, you can just put a dot or a pin, right? I clearly selected the anchorage, right? And
While
so
we're
then
talking about rocks, I had a
yeah,
question pop up and as asking where is the firecracker?
yeah. So the firecracker is, okay, let's look at the lake. Let me turn this again so it's a better view of the lake here for you guys. Okay. So the black line that you see in the middle right there, and it turns into a red line there, that is the United States Canada border. That runs on an angle right along the shipping channel there. Right? You see it? It's right here. This line right here. Okay. So if you follow that all the way up, right where the shipping channel splits, okay, so this is the way the freighters go. They go up this way, and we can go this way too, but this is all no wake all through here. When you go into what we call the Old South Channel, so this junction right here splits the shipping channel and the Old South Channel. If you stay to the left, you'll go up the Old South Channel and you'll end up by Gull Island. See Gull Island right there on your left? And you'll end up over here by the old club, right, which is over here. And you could go right up the shipping channel. It's if you're going out sightseeing, it's a great way to go. But if you want a more direct route, you're going to go this way, which is right down the shipping channel. Okay. So where's the firecracker? The firecracker is right where these two split. And if I zoom out, Okay, you don't see it. And watch, I'll zoom in. Remember, yellow represents land, not this yellow line that you see running through here, but the yellow solid pieces. See this right here? That's Seaway Island. See, it says Canada Island. That yellow there represents land. When I zoom in, you'll start to see land start to form very thin, right? A very thin little piece of land starts to form right there. That is the firecracker. Okay. What is the firecracker? The firecracker is a we call it riprap, right? So it's like broken concrete or rocks or whatever. It's a seawall that's just underneath the water, about a half a foot or a foot. And you can't see it when the water's high. You especially can't see it when the water's high, right? But if you go over it with your boat, it'll rip the lower end unit right off the boat, right? Which can be thousands and thousands of dollars, right? Probably starting at about $5,000 if you're lucky. You know what boat stands for, right? Break out another 1,000. So, you know, everything on a boat, small things are $1,000. So you can imagine if you have to replace your entire lower end unit, it's anywhere from $7,000 to $15,000, depending on what kind of lower end unit you have. You don't want to go over the firecracker. Now, thanks to Steve and his never-ending efforts to get that firecracker marked, it is now marked, but you still have to look for it and you have to know where you're at. But it is clearly marked on the chart, as you can see. That is why the Coast Guard fought with Steve for so long to not mark it, because they said, hey, look, if you know how to read a chart, you know that it's there and you won't run it over. But it also, I think we were able to, I think Steve told me something like there were 40 boats that hit it the year before they got it marked. And then I think there were like 4 that hit it after it was marked. So, you know, he's really done a great thing by getting it marked. But that is where the firecracker is. And you can see just on the other side. So people cross over it because they don't understand that it's there, number one. And number two, like they think that it's all deep because, again, they don't know how to read a chart. But remember, we talked about white is the deepest, blue is the shallowest. And you can see right here, what is this right here? It's blue, right? It's dark blue. So it's real shallow there. So people want to cut across here and they're just going to get themselves in trouble, because even if the firecracker wasn't here, they can hit rocks, they can hit, you know, shallow water. I always tell everybody, don't cut corners. Stay in the channels. Go the long way around. It takes you an extra 5 minutes, 10 minutes, but you don't know what you're going to hit because you don't know what's there. There's a reason why people don't do that, right? Because it's unsafe. Other places that you want to be careful of, also when you're going, for example, like to Algonac Harbor Club, which is way up here, there is a big obstruction right here. See, it says wreck, right? Tells you, what is that wreck? As far as I know, it's a sunken barge, right? But people will also cut that corner right there. So instead of, when I go to Algonac, I go all the way up here and around this buoy. I go all the way around this buoy here because I like to be safe. People will cut this corner here and hit that wreck, right? It takes an extra 5 minutes to go up here and go around. Okay, more obstructions here. There's another obstruction there. Anytime you see this shape that looks like a football, right? See this like football shape? That is some sort of sunken wreck, right? And they're around here, they're usually barges or pilings that are underwater. So watch for those. All right. Also with the crosshairs, you can go over the light. So see that when I go over it, it says that that is the Russell Island Shoal. Right. And I can learn more about the Russell Island Shoal. It tells me where it's located. Right. It's having its green flashing lights for a period of 6 seconds. So that means it's on for 6 seconds, you know, like with periods, I think it's 6 seconds off, right? So it's on and then it's off for 6 seconds, then it's on and then it's off for 6 seconds. Okay, so anything when you're going through here, anything that you want to know what it is, you just put the crosshairs over it and it will tell you. Okay, here, Elginak Harbor Club, again, we can touch on it and it tells us it has transient slip wells. It'll give us all kinds of information. Okay. Let's see. Let's talk about the weather real quick. So this will tell you the weather, right? If you go to, let's say, well, let's go back to my home here, right? And we'll click on weather. Okay, so now it tells me the weather. It tells me the wind, speed, and direction. So right now the wind is out of the northwest at 8 miles per hour. Right? And it tells me that it's 19 degrees out. It tells me when the sun sets, when the sun rises. This is important to know because you got to have the boats back, right? Just before sunset. So important to know. It also tells me the wind speed and direction through the hours of the day. So boating is not just about, hey, it's sunny and 80 degrees out, right? It's about the wind, because the wind affects this lake. This lake is only average about 10 feet deep. And so it can get churned up really fast. And what we like, I like to tell everybody, is we like a west wind, right? If you're coming out of Clinton River or St. Clair Shores, you like a west wind. If you're coming out of the Detroit River, a west wind's not great, right? If it's a light west wind, and when I say light, 10 mile per hour or less, you don't have to worry about it, right? If it's a 10 mile an hour or more, then you're going to be affected by it. And if it's an east wind or a northeast wind out of St. Clair Shores or the Clinton River, you know, anything like 10 mile per hour, you know, you can still go out on the lake. You're going to feel it though. It's going to be a little choppy. Get up to 15 miles an hour. It's going to start, you know, depending on where you're going, it's going to start getting a little bit rough. Might be rough to get to the other side of the lake, but you can get there. 20 mile an hour winds, I would not go out, and 25 mile an hour winds are a small craft advisory, right? So be mindful, be aware of the wind. It's not just the temperature, right, of the lake. Okay, so we've got a few minutes left, and I want to turn some things over to Joe, but I just wanted to show you guys one more app that I thought you might find of interest. I use this at my house a lot because I can see the freighters going by, and I'm always thinking to myself, I wonder what ship that is. But it's a app. It's called, hold on, let's go back. It's called Marine Traffic, right? And it'll show me the different boats on the water, which right now there aren't that many, But let's go down here. Here, there's one in the St. Clair River. So if I touch on that, it shows me it's a Canadian ship, and I can see a picture. So it's a cutter, right? So there's a cutter there. I can look at different pictures of this cutter, right? It's a Canadian Coast Guard cutter that's in the St. Clair River right now. If I go down to the south, there was another ship in Lake Erie. Didn't I see one in Lake Erie? Yeah. Let's see. What is this? Another Canadian ship. Oh, that's a big one. And it tells you a little bit about it too, right? So it'll say how fast it's going. It'll tell you how long it is. It's usually in meters. And it tells you where it's going. So again, I can look at different pictures of this ship. So just something of interest for those of you who like freighters like I do. I thought you guys might like that. But let's go back to, let's spend a minute and let Joe talk about, Joe's our new director of sales, and let's have him talk about some things he wanted to talk to you guys about and the peace of mind plan. So go ahead, Joe, take it over.
Thanks, Karyn. How's it going, everybody? I'm Joe. Like she said, I'm the new director of sales at Freedom Boat Club. Some of you may know me, may have interacted with me or seen me. Some of you may not have. But either way, I look forward to meeting you guys in the springtime on the water, however we may come across each other. Now that we've covered the Navionics, how to navigate safely, thank you, Karyn. Did a great job there. I want to talk about something that's just as important, right? Protecting yourself while you're out on the water. As Freedom Boat Club members, you already enjoyed the perks of unlimited boating and our reciprocal club access around the world. But as boaters, we all know that the unexpected can happen. Whether it's a grounding, you hit a prop on a rock or somewhere real shallow, or even maybe you have an issue docking somewhere unfamiliar. This is especially true with the current low water levels on Lake St. Clair. Many of you have probably already noticed the ice dropping, shifting water levels, some hazards that are exposed that used to not be, and areas that used to be safe that already required extra caution at the end of last boating season. Even the most experienced boaters like Karyn can still be at risk of unexpected damage, and we've seen a rise in minor incidents just because of the changing water levels. So that's why I want to introduce everyone to FBC Plus. It's the ultimate peace of mind as a member while you're out there enjoying the water. And now you might be asking, what even is that, right? It's optional, highly recommended by our members and our staff. It's a coverage that significantly reduces your out-of-pocket expense in case of an accidental damage incident, right? Like maybe you brush up against the dock, something like that. Instead of being liable for up to $5,000 in deductibles with FBC Plus, that's going to drop down to zero, right? That could save you hundreds, even thousands of dollars if something small or something major happens. Now, let's talk about reciprocal boating. Those of you who are members, one of the biggest perks of being a Freedom Boat Club member is having access to over 400 locations around the world, right? Whether it's Florida or California, or you go to Europe, you get to boat somewhere unfamiliar. That also means you're boating in new areas with different hazards, rocks, sandbars, tides, unfamiliar docking situations, all things that might send you into a situation where there could be damage caused to the boat. If you're in a new location and you accidentally clip a dock or run into a hidden sandbar or damage a prop, Freedom Boat Club Plus has you covered. No stress, no big out-of-pocket expenses. You get up to 2 incidents per year. Nobody's ever done more than that. So if you get up to 2 incidents per year without having to worry about any sort of coverage, we take care of all the costs. It's free to you, $0. So for just $55 for a single member monthly, or $550 annually for a single member, or $75 for 2 members, or $750 annually for 2 members, you protect yourself from costly repairs. It's like kind of having like trip insurance for every single boating experience, whether you're here at Lake St. Clair or at another location in California or Australia, wherever you might get to go boating, right? Since you're here for the training, we're going to offer a special sign-up opportunity those of you who might want to take advantage of it for this season, get yourself protected. If you enroll in Freedom Boat Club Plus Insurance today, you can get $50 off an annual prepayment or $5 off if you chose to do the monthly. So if you want to keep your boating stress-free, whether you're here with these low water conditions or somewhere unfamiliar, Freedom Boat Club Plus Insurance is the best way to protect yourself and your wallet. So if you're interested, drop a yes in the chat. I'll follow up right after the session, help you get set up. And if you have any questions, I'd like to open up the chat, or one at a time, you can unmute your mic. I know you guys are all muted at this moment, and just feel free to ask. I'm going to stay unmuted and I'll be able to answer your questions for you. So go ahead with any questions you might have that haven't gone answered in the chat already.
When you, Joe, when you said that would be, so for example, if you and someone else are on your account and that person's driving, that would cover both of them. So like,
yep. So we've got 2 different options for you, Anthony. If you have an A member and a B member on your account, you can cover one member or you can cover both. If you cover one member, your annual cost with a prepayment is $550. If you cover both, it's only $750. So your second member is an additional $200 annually, or $20 a month if you opt to go monthly.
For the second member.
Does that answer your question?
Yeah, because if they're navigating the vessel, they're reliable. You don't swap seats and say you were driving.
Right. Exactly. Yes. Exactly. And especially, having a B member, you might not always be on the boat with them. It might be just the B member that makes the reservation. So, it's definitely worth it to just add your second member, save a little money, right? Obviously, or a lot of money if it's a big incident. So,
right. Okay, that sounds good.
The other thing we love about it is we never have to have those uncomfortable conversations with members where the damage is done to a boat. If you got the peace of mind, it's a real easy conversation. We say, have a nice day, and we take care of it. The other thing is having to collect money with members. I hate that.
Exactly.
Yeah, I felt like it's just looking at what Captain Karyn showed on these charts, and as a person who's in a personal watercraft a lot, I have to unlearn a few things, and that is the distances, because I feel like I can go about anywhere and as close as I want. That's not going to be the case here. So
yeah, I know, Tony, I can tell you, my very first boat I ever owned was a Wave Runner, and when I got so that was the first boat I owned. But the first real boat I owned was a 28-foot Sea Ray Sundancer, and that was a whole different ball game, right? So now you got to worry about depth. With the Wave Runner, you don't worry about that, because if you hit something, you just jump off it and push it. With a boat, with a prop, it's a whole new ball game. So that's where the GPS is going to come in real handy for you.
Karyn, I'm sorry I had to jump on late, but did you cover what the expected water level is this year? Do we have any idea what that is yet?
No, I didn't. I said we were down 2 feet right now.
Right. Yeah, it's
but I don't know what they're anticipating. Do you know, Steve?
I don't. That's what I was just wondering. I look that up just around this time of year because they start predicting it. But I was just wondering.
We should get a good amount of it.
About chart datum, and we stayed about chart datum till the end of the year. We were down probably about at least a foot in the fall, if not a foot and a half, and now we're down about 2. And I know that we are low on, our rainfall and snowfall. The thing that may save us is if we get a lot of rain this spring. And then also the other thing that will probably save us is the fact that it's been pretty cold, and the ice, I think the lakes are about 1/3 frozen. And so that helps keep some of the water from evaporating. But I would imagine that we're going to be a little bit lower than we probably were last year. It's been going down every year since 2020, which was probably the highest it had been. Right. So it's been going down every year. Yeah.
Karyn, I can't thank you enough for doing this. It's just such a valuable resource that we have with your expertise in this area and operating these Navionics systems, especially those that travel and go to reciprocal places. This tool is absolutely amazing. When you go to these locations like a Pine Island, where it is very tricky navigation, just putting that breadcrumb trail on and you can get back to wherever you came from, it helps tremendously. So Karyn, thank you again for a great job as always.
Yeah,
Thank you,
you're
Joe.
welcome. And I didn't even show you guys there are, you can use this tool to see the tides. So when the tide's going out and when the tide's coming in, and if you want, like let me know and I'll show you how that works. You'll probably go onto YouTube and find some videos that'll show you how to use that. If you are going to go down to Florida, that's going to be real important, because it shows you the high tide and the low tide, and when it's going in versus when it's coming out.
And it's really important when you're anchoring on a beach and you're anchoring at high tide, and if you're not paying attention, your boat will be sitting on that beach and you'll be there all night if you don't pay attention to it.
Exactly. Yeah, but you're welcome. And if anybody has any questions, I'll be glad to answer them.
Thank you, Karyn.
Yeah, thank
Yeah.
you. For anyone else interested in peace of mind, I'm going to put my phone number and my email in the chat right now. Feel free to reach out, even if it's not tonight. If you want to call me in April when we're going to hopefully start getting some boats on the water, that's when we can maybe handle the peace of mind. Otherwise, you can take advantage of your savings tonight. Feel free to reach out. I'll be able to answer any questions you come up with, as well as help you get enrolled and apply that additional coverage and safety net, to your boating experience, so you can enjoy your time on the water instead of being
And
concerned.
members, we're gonna be boat shopping next week. We'll keep you posted.
New boats coming.
Yep.
All right. Yeah. Thank you, everybody. If you have
Good,
any
thanks, Karyn.
additional questions, I'll get with Taylor and I'll answer. We'll I don't know where we'll put them, but we'll make sure that we answer any questions that we didn't get to.
If there's any other questions that we didn't get to tonight, everyone should have my email. Feel free to email me any of your questions. I will get with Karyn to answer those, and we will put those in the band app. Thank you, everyone.
Hey, everybody, check out the Facebook before you leave. We're posting a pretty hype video today. Travis hit a milestone. I think you guys are all going to enjoy it. So look up Freedom Boat Club on Facebook. We're going to enjoy
Oh
that.
boy.
You guys got a big hype video. It's got the whole crew in it. It's got the whole crew. So go check it out. It'll be up tonight.
Thanks, Joe.
See everybody.
Thank you. Good night.